But I want to start with a story out of Houston, Texas. And this is a frightening story. We're getting some new information now about, and Dylan, I just sent you some audio. I'm not sure, you be the judge if it's arable or not, but we're getting some information on the shooter. And it really surprised a lot of people. Yesterday, the breaking news alerts coming out regarding the shooting at Joel Osteen's church. That would be Lakewood Church there in Houston. It's a mega church. I think they have, 40,000 members. And so they have multiple services throughout the day. And they were getting ready for a Spanish language service when all of a sudden gunfire broke out. We actually have the video of when that happened. They were doing some sort of announcements, and all of a sudden you heard the gunfire, and it was a lot of gunfire. But for the grace of God, there were not many people shot and killed that day. We do know that a small child was critically injured and an older gentleman was also shot. We also understand that the shooter was taken down by a church security force. And now comes the breaking news that the gunman or the woman turned out to be a man. The gunman at Joel Osteen's church was transgender, a man pretending to be a woman, which makes a lot of sense now. It's unusual for a woman to go out there and do something like this. According to the police, the gunman walked in a trench coat, had a long gun, and just started firing. So the suspect who is dead. His name is Jeffrey Escalante, but he went by Genesee. And this guy was he was a radical leftist, also a domestic terrorist. And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, what happened at Lakewood Church was perpetrated by a member of the LGBT community, a domestic terrorist. And it's time we start having a conversation about the radicalizing of the LGBT movement. And clearly, these people are going after the Christians. And we have seen this in shooting after shooting after shooting. And it is absolutely unacceptable. So we're going to be following the developments on this story, but there have been at least a half a dozen or a dozen attacks where the gunman was, in fact, a member of the LGBT community. And the media doesn't want to talk about this. As a matter of fact, you watch how quickly this story disappears from the news cycle. Watch how quickly the media pivots here. They don't want to talk about the reality. And what is the reality? The reality is that you've got the transgender community. They've been radicalized, these people. And again, I sympathize, but just until a few years ago, this was called a what? A mental illness, a mental disease. People would be hospitalized. They would be treated for this. But instead now we are told that we have to celebrate it and we have to humor these people. This is a very dangerous situation. And now I want to say something to our church community. I know so many of you go to a synagogue, you go to a Catholic church, you go to a Protestant church. Many of you are very religious people, and I want you to hear me on this. Don't mess around with your security, right? You don't want to do that anymore. It's not just something that you need to consider. It's not even something that, and again, if you have volunteers, some of you have volunteer security teams, you need to make sure those volunteers are trained by professionals. You need to make sure that every time the church doors open that you have security there. It's important because these people are coming after you. They're coming after the Christians. By the way, we still do not have the manifesto of the shooter in Nashville. How long has that been? We still don't have the manifesto. And you know why? Because in that manifesto, I believe, are the horrifying details of what really went down inside the Covenant Christian School, where you had a transgender activist, ladies and gentlemen, shooting and killing 6 people, including 3 children. And what is the argument? What was the narrative coming out of that? Not that, wow, we need to address what's going on in the LGBT community. No, 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 no. We got to get the guns, right? You saw how quickly they pivoted onto that narrative. You watch how the narrative changes in Houston, Texas.